It has been 6 months since the murders of Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, the University of Idaho students. And coming up next month, the preliminary hearing for the alleged killer. What will it be like for the families of the victims to be in the same room with the accused? What will it be like for them to hear all the evidence? Tonight, we take a look at the next big case on Court TV, the Idaho students' murder trial. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. And think about these two cases we're going to talk about this hour, how different they are. On the one hand, you have a mother taking the life of her children. And then on the other hand, you have four families who are absolutely devastated because their children are gone at the hands of some stranger. The contrast could not be greater, and we're going to get into it tonight. Let's begin with the case out in Idaho, and this is the biggest case in America right now. It absolutely is in the criminal world. 6 months ago, that these, I'm going to call them children. They're, by age, they're adults, they're young adults, but come on, let's be honest here. I have children this age. These are children. They're still children. And what happened inside that house, so horrific, beyond measure. And you think about what's going to happen, right? Our system of justice starts moving. This is a case, could likely, if they find probable cause, et cetera, could end up being a death penalty case. Four young lives that were all just taken out at once. Think about the level of despair and heartbreak that's going to be inside that courtroom each and every day. It's unthinkable. And I want to remind you, this trial is not about him. It's not about him. I'll tell you what, out of this mouth on this show, you're not going to hear his name. Guests can say his name. I'm not going to tell the people what to say, but for me, I'm not saying his name. But this trial is not about him. This trial is about four young people, really good people, like getting ready to step into the world and make their marks. I mean, some of them already made a mark, but to really make their marks in the world. That this should be some of the most memorable and enjoyable times of their lives. You're making that step from being, like I said, a child into adulthood and getting independent and getting the first job and being responsible and making us, the parents, so proud. And to have all that taken away. But every criminal case, every murder case, we can't lose sight. I know there's someone on trial, but the case doesn't happen unless there are victims, unless there is this devastation. There is no case, there's no arrest, there's no trial, there's none of this. So it's about them. It's about what is the truth about what happened to them and who is responsible for causing that, and what price will they pay for what they did to these four young souls. These victims were honored by the school, and you're in college. Again, this is a point, right? You want to, as a parent, your child is going off to college. You want them to do the best they can do, whatever that is, and at the end, you want to be able to see them walk across that stage, and then it's like mission accomplished. It's not an easy mission either, because it starts when they're little boys and little girls, and for them, they have to learn and study and work their way through all of the things and all the things that can throw them off that path. But not these four. They were on their way. I want you to take a listen. This is Alex Miller, great correspondent with Scripps News, our sister network, talking with some students and talking about the university and graduation and these four wonderful folks.
College graduation, it's a time of excitement, of new beginnings. But here in Moscow, Idaho, this week, it's been a little bit quiet.
I haven't seen as much excitement for this graduation, like compared to the previous years.
Paige Erbely graduated from the University of Idaho and has stuck around Moscow for work. She says there's a cloud over this year's celebration, falling exactly 6 months to the day since 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered. 2 of the victims, Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves, were seniors and should be walking with their classmates. Visiting campus, you almost wouldn't know graduation was happening this weekend.
It's just a really, really touchy subject that the town is very, very sensitive to right now.
The house, still boarded up, patrolled by security 24/7 for months, is a stark reminder not only of the tragedy, but of the month-and-a-half-long manhunt that left so many here shaken.
The murders in November were really sort of shock to the whole system.
Since then, both Erbely and architecture professor Phil Mead say the town changed.
We just paid more attention. We were all very much more cautious.
I used to sometimes leave my door unlocked and be like, whatever, Moscow's a safe town, nothing's gonna happen. And of course, I don't have the luxury of thinking like that anymore.
Mead says he's been encouraged by the extra security that is still in place, but says the fact that the man accused of the crime is in jail just a few blocks away keeps the chill here.
And the courthouse is right up there, so just thinking, every once in a while I have to drive by it.
Scripps News spoke with a dozen students, and their concern is the continued microscope on their tiny town in the middle of rolling hills. Many of them still shaken by what happened.
I think it was a traumatic experience. We were all there for each other. But I also think that there is a sense of the outside world having a spotlight on the small town that you love created more. It was hectic, it was scary.
Sarah Sullivan, a native Californian, came to Idaho because her mom went to school here. She says this is a tight-knit school full of students with deep roots.
Fellow students have really stepped up support and positive support.
The dean of students, a lot of teachers and everything have been really compassionate and really putting out resources out there, letting us know that we have someone to hear us out, hear our concerns.
The school, the families, the Greek houses where victims were members, the restaurant where 2 of the victims worked, all hesitant to make any statements that could impact their healing and the pending trial. Students in Greek life told us they've made checking in on each other's mental health a focus. After all, this case and conspiracy theories surrounding it became prevalent on social media.
There was a lot of he said, she said, and people were coming after fellow students and things and professors who were completely innocent. And you were like, that's not true. I know these people.
The murders defining this year, but the students tell us they are determined for people to know the goodness that exists here.
We've gotten through it. I think we've come out stronger as a community as a whole.
There's definitely a level of anxiety here, knowing that this tiny college town will once again be in the spotlight soon. Kohberger has not entered a plea for either his burglary or 4 murder charges. He is due back in court on June 26th. For Court TV, I'm Alex Miller.
And the families of 2 of the victims who would have graduated were honored. Let's take a look.
During a private ceremony on Monday, we awarded a certificate in marketing to the family of Xana Alexia Kernodle. A certificate in recreation, sport, and tourism management will be delivered to the family of Ethan James Chapin in the coming weeks. In our morning commencement ceremony, we awarded a posthumous Bachelor of Science degree in business to the family of Madison May Mogan. Now we will present 2 bachelor's degrees. First, a bachelor's degree in general studies to the family of Kaylee Jade Goncalves.
Her family will receive the diploma of the University of Idaho.
Now, we will present a Bachelor of Science in Business degree to the family of Madison May Mogan.
Posthumous degree earned in testimony whereof her family will receive the diploma of the University of Idaho.
This is just part of their journey for these families. I want you to listen to two of the fathers, Maddie's and Kaylee's father, who have spoken out about this. Let's listen.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul.
I was pretty angry. I was pretty heated. I wanted him to look me in the eye. He knows I want him to look in the eye. So he didn't give me that.
You never know how far something like this reaches, how many people it hurts, and how they're gonna have to live with this for the rest of their life. And it's something that'll never heal, you know.
So I think he understands that I'm not gonna see something in his eyes that I want to see, you know. I want to see an innocent man, but I feel like he's just scared to look at me in the eyes and start to understand what's about to happen to him.
So we heard from some of the fathers, and what's it going to be like for these dads and for these families? I've got two special guests tonight joining us. First, we have the father of Poly Class and the president of Class Kids Foundation. Mark Class is with us. Mark, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been too long. And also joining us, Parkland victim Alex Schachter's father and founder and CEO of Safe Schools for Alex. Max Schachter is with us. Thank you, Max. Great to see you again. You guys have a perspective that no one ever wants to have, but you have it. So if you could, I'll start with you, Mark. What will it be like for these families? I mean, at this preliminary hearing, they're going to hear the evidence for the first time. They're going to hear some of these details. What will that be like for them?
Well, Vinnie, it's truly a constant assault on your sensibilities, because you're sitting in a dispassionate setting, listening to the last few hours of your child's life be dissected, analyzed, deconstructed, reconstructed, cross-referenced, and compartmentalized. And the instruction to you is don't show any emotion, or you may be removed from the courtroom. So unless you've been in a situation like this, unless you've experienced the trauma of losing your child, and then the reality of having to face that killer in the courtroom every day, it's really kind of an unimaginable thing. It's very difficult, though.
Max, how about, you know, one is you're hearing the evidence and the details. The other thing is you're in the room with the accused killer.
Yeah, no question about it. It's really, really hard. I think for us, the hardest part was looking and seeing the defense really coddle the Parkland murderer, touch him and put their arm around him and listen to the testimony of the defense, which wants you to think that he's the victim and not you know, your children that were brutally murdered. So, you know, I think that the parents need to be prepared for them to dress him up like Howdy Doody. They're going to put his seat all the way to the ground. They're going to put him in a sweater vest, possibly like they did with the Menendez brothers. And you know, in Parkland, we listened to months and months of a trial, and then what was really hard was so upsetting was at the end of the trial, the defense closing argument. You know, she said that you basically could disregard all the evidence and just vote your conscience. And she played on their conscience and told them that you'll never forgive yourself if you vote for the death penalty. And there's a lot of similarities between Idaho and Parkland. We had a death penalty here as well. It had to be unanimous, and you know, it just takes one. It just takes one juror to vote for life. So they're going to throw everything. The defense will throw everything, the kitchen sink, you know, to the jury to try to get, you know, just one sympathy vote, and it's really hard. You know, we know who the victims are, And I hope that the DA does a good job and makes sure that the entire world never forgets who all of these beautiful kids were, and that the killer, the murderer, gets punished. And I hope that justice will be served for the families.
Mark, what sort of advice do you give to folks when you speak with them, who are going through what you went through?
Well, you have to be a fly on the wall, actually. You can't emote. In a sense, Vinnie, you said the trial's about the four victims here, but from our point of view, from the family's point of view, this trial is about the killer. It's about spending tons of money, utilizing the resources of the court system to give this guy every chance he can grab to excuse and justify the inexcusable and the unjustifiable, the blatant murder of children. So it almost becomes an exercise in just trying to hold your emotions together as this whole thing goes down.
Max?
Over the long term.
There's so many different parts of this, right? There's when the murder first happens, and then the wheels start turning slowly. Is there any point, if you were speaking to another parent, is there any point where, and I'm not going to use the C word, closure, but is there any point where things get a little bit better for the family, where you can sleep a little better, or is that not even, in the equation?
We had hoped that we would have some semblance of justice, and that we would, that the Parkland murderer would get what he deserved. But unfortunately, we lost complete faith in the criminal justice system because there was one juror that was a hard no against the death penalty. She voted for life, and then two other jurors voted along with her. So the Parkland murderer, got what he had wanted all this time, which was life in prison. He didn't want the death penalty, and this just continued on with his life. He was a violent individual since he was 3 years old, and he never had any consequences. And then, and then he didn't get the ultimate punishment. And so I hope that doesn't happen to these families, but they should be prepared for them not to get the justice that they deserve. Unfortunately, the criminal justice system is extremely flawed, and it's not fair.
Mark, what's it like the day after day, right? You're in court, and then you leave. You know you're coming back the next day, and the next day, and the next day. What is that whole time like?
It's horrible. I mean, it's one of the worst imaginable times in your life. It's not as bad, obviously, as the realization that you've lost your child to murder. But the only thing, Vinnie, that kept me from driving to drink every night after that, just to numb my sensibilities, was the knowledge that I had to go there and be strong for my child. I had to be the one to represent her. So what I did is every night after trial, I would sit down at my computer and write an essay about what I'd gone through. So I ended up with a trial journal with 41 different entries, which we've put up on our website, our Class Kids website, and it's been there for forever now. But it was very hard. We had to pay for everything. They changed the venue, so we had to pay to move to the new venue so that we could be in court every day. So all of that burden is on ourselves. But on the other side of the coin, if the killer's family comes to testify, the state's going to pick up that expense. We really become isolated as individuals during this whole system because it becomes difficult to talk to anybody. Nobody understands what you're going through. Nobody realizes it. And it's an assault day after day after day after day. And it seems absolutely unending.
And Max, finally, before we run out of time here, are you able, in your mind, to have all those positive images of Alex?
Yeah, we have to. I mean, that's what, makes me get up every day, and the fact that I have 3 other kids and a wife that I have to take care of. But all of us, we all, move on through this journey so that we can keep our loved ones' memories alive. And that's why we started Safe Schools for Alex, and that's why I do what I do every day to make schools safer around the country, to fight for school safety, whether, it's making improvements in Florida or at the federal level. But, those families have to lean on each other. The difference is that no one knows what they're going through except those families. And that's what we had in Parkland. All the 17 families leaned on each other, and that was huge comfort. And we were there for all of our each other. And that's part of our journey and part of our healing process.
Well, Mark and Max, I thank you so much for being on the show tonight, and I thank you for all the incredible work that you're doing, helping other folks. And you've been through the worst of the worst, and to be able on the other side of that, reach out and help people, it's pretty amazing. So the best to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinnie.
All right, folks, we're going to talk more about the Idaho students case plus coming up next hour. In Kern County, California, the Cal City toddlers murder case coming to a close. Little Orrin and Orson West missing since 2020, and now their adoptive parents on trial for double murder. Closing arguments are tomorrow, and tonight we take a look at the biggest moments from the trial. Have prosecutors proven their case?
They did see chalk on a cement slab, but Officer Hansen also noted that there was no children's footprints.
I started hearing these stories about murder and stuff.
I'm about to be the biggest drug dealer that you can become.
Oh my God, are they starting a war with me or what?
I'm not gonna lie, it felt good to be a gangster.
She just points the gun right in my face.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just shoots me.
We knew that what we were doing had consequences, but we just didn't care.
Vice on Court TV. Weeknights at 7, 6 Central. Only on Court TV.
I got a text from my mom, and she said, "Hey, you're in Steptoe Apartments. Look outside your door." And I looked right outside, and I saw the crime tape, and I saw the unmarked police vehicles, people going in to do the crime scene search, and I was just flabbergasted that he lived right there. It's like, wow, that was right next door. So, just maybe think about the couple times I was walking home late at night, and this is kind of a family-friendly area and really safe, so it kind of was flabbergasted that there could have been a killer next door.
Yeah, the accused killer living next door. Scary stuff. Chanley Painter went through the affidavit after the arrest of the suspect in the Idaho student murder case. Went through it and to get some idea of the evidence that was gathered by investigators. Let's take a listen.
The family of the victims and millions around the country have frantically searched for clues about what happened on the night Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle were brutally murdered. The probable cause affidavit provides some answers. It lays out a timeline of what prosecutors say happened during those early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. At 2 a.m., all the roommates are home after a night out. Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, is also at the house. The address is 1122 King Road. At 2:47 a.m., Bryan Kohberger's cell phone allegedly shows he's traveling south through Pullman, Washington. And right then, the phone stops, reporting to the cell network. The affidavit states police obtained numerous surveillance videos from homes and businesses that capture a white sedan on November 13th. It's 3:26 a.m. when video captures what police say is Kohberger's 2015 white Hyundai Elantra traveling westbound on Indian Hills Drive. This is 5 minutes from the victim's home. Starting at 3:29 a.m., home surveillance videos caught multiple sightings of that same car passing through the King Road neighborhood. Around 4 a.m. is when surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen wakes up to the sounds of what she believes is Kaylee Gonsalves in the room directly above her playing with her dog. Dylan says a short time later she heard who she thought was Kaylee say, "There's someone here." Dylan looks out the door of her bedroom and doesn't see anyone. At 4:04 a.m., Kohberger's vehicle returns to this area for the fourth time. It turns on Queen Street here, moving eastbound past the crime scene in this direction. Past these apartment complexes, police say surveillance video picks up that white car making a turn. Then the vehicle heads back this direction towards the crime scene. At 4:12 a.m., Xana is using the TikTok app on her phone. At an unknown time, Dylan Mortensen hears what she believes to be crying coming from Xana Kernodle's bedroom. She opens her bedroom door for a second time, sees nothing, but hears a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At about 4:17 a.m., a security camera from this residence picks up distorted audio of what sounds like voices or a whimper, a loud thud, and a dog barking. The affidavit states that at some point, Dylan opens her door for a third time to look because she hears crying. This time, she sees a man in black clothing with a mask covering his mouth and nose. It's 4:20 a.m. when surveillance video again allegedly captures Kohberger's vehicle. This time, it's seen leaving the area, driving away at a high speed.
All right, let's bring in our guest to talk about this. Joining us tonight from Los Angeles, California, body language expert, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, Dr. Carol Lieberman, known for taking us inside the mind of the criminal. And in Salt Lake City, Utah, private investigator Jason Jensen, 20+ years of investigative experience. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Carol Lieberman, take us inside the mind of the killer. Now, obviously, this man's accused of doing it, so let's go inside his mind. What do you think, from what you've learned about studying what's been released so far about this man, his background, everything else, what strikes you about the mind of this accused killer?
Well, from the very beginning, I have stated that he is an incel. And the clues that gave me that, this was before he was arrested, the clues were, first of all, that the manner of the killing of these 4 people, that it was so brutal, so violent, the bloodiest crime scene they've ever seen, some of the people said who were investigating it. And also the nature of the victims. You know, the incels are men who who are angry at women because they feel deprived of love and sex from them. And they are particularly angry at women who look like the women who this murderer killed. You know, very pretty, very popular, and so on. Women who they believe would never have given them the time of day. So those two things fit together, and you know, I believed and I stated that police should be looking for an incel, and then lo and behold, Bryan Kohberger was arrested, and he does fit this pattern from his history. He has a history of being rejected by women starting in middle school.
Jason Jensen, some of the evidence has been released from these affidavits. Obviously, when this preliminary hearing occurs, we're going to hear a lot more. But based upon what you've seen and the way this investigation went, how strong is this evidence and the type of evidence that we've learned about so far?
Well, Vinnie, the evidence that was just stated here just moments ago is very strong as circumstantial evidence. You can get a conviction based on that alone. But what was omitted in that section was that there's even DNA obtained, that there was the knife sheath that was left at the crime scene, and it actually had Kohberger's DNA on the snap. So that's direct evidence tying him to the crime scene and not just driving by or anything like that.
And what we've heard from the defense, that they were filing motions talking about exculpatory evidence. And I'm like, exculpatory? Like, okay, so I want to see what their story is going to be, because they're fighting this. Not waving a white flag, not throwing in the towel. This isn't going to be a case that's just about, oh, let's make sure he doesn't get the death penalty. It seems the defense in this case is saying, no, he did not do it. The evidence is not there, and there's evidence that says someone else did it. That's what I'm hearing from them. So, Dr. Carol Lieberman, let's go somewhere else here. A lot was made, especially in the beginning when we first found out about him, in his background, his area of study, his area of education. What impact, if any, do you think that had on him? And why is it that he has that background and is now accused in this case? Do you see a relationship?
Yes. I think all along, for years, he was aware to some degree of his murderous impulses, of his particularly rage towards women. But I think and so as an undergrad, he studied psychology, and I think he was trying to figure himself out. And then he wanted to understand more about whether he does have the mind of a murderer. And so he went further with criminal studies. And so in which case, I think he was trying to understand their minds, the minds of famous criminals, famous murderers. And I think also his end game is that, and I know he's innocent until proven guilty and all of that, but I think his end game is that he wanted to become one of those notorious murderers that he and his classmates read about in these criminal justice classes. He wanted to become famous like them.
And Jason Jensen, are you surprised someone studying this stuff and thinking about it so, analytically, would make the mistakes that prosecutors say that this killer made in leaving a trail behind?
Well, clearly, we've heard on this show plenty of times that there's no such thing as a perfect murder, but clearly, given his background, his education, he probably thought he could educate his way into creating the perfect crime, but as we know from the evidence, there was plenty of mistakes. His vehicle was spotted in surveillance footage. He left the knife sheath behind. He thought he could turn off the phone and mask his presence in Moscow, but all it was using that same phone. There was history of him in that neighborhood, and you could tell when the phone was turned on and off and things like that. So it's pretty obvious that he thought he could get away with it, but there was way too many mistakes.